Hi guys, so we're back with Rhinomancer version 2, as I promised in the last video that I did, which was the version 1 dot resolution Rhinomancer build. I hope you've been having a blast with it. I know I have been, but I think this one is even better. It's a non-dot resolution Rhino build, and I think you're going to have a blast with this one. It only requires 6 pieces of gear. We have 2 dead slots, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I think yeah, it could help some people out having the 2 dead slots that maybe can't get some of the other gear. But you'll see in this build as we go through it what it's all about and how it works. We will go through everything to start with, the skills and everything like we normally do, and then I will show you exactly how the build works. But first of all, I just want to say a massive thanks to everyone that has supported me so far. We have just reached over 4,000 subscribers, and it's only been going since November. So a massive thanks to everyone so far. And on that note, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and if you want to further kind of support me, don't forget, become a member. And we've got the Discord there for any questions, anything you want to ask, feel free to join that at any time. Now, let's just get into what we've got here today, and I'm super excited about this build. It's an absolute blast. There is some downsides to Rhinomancer, which I'll go in at the end of the video, talking about what I think they could improve. But I think you will have a lot of fun. So skill-wise, we're going to be using Soulfire, which is just going to get cancelled out as soon as you hit the Rhino anyway, because Rhino cancels out your primary skill, so this one doesn't really matter. We're then going to be using Grim Scythe, we're going to be using Dark Curse, we're going to be using Corpse Lance, and we're going to be using Bone Spikes to be able to use our Rhino. Now, when it comes to the gear we are using, we're going to be using Valhallow's Held. And this is basically so you can jump on the mount, so it grants you a mount increasing your movement speed up to 30%, making you immune to all knockback effects, and your mount damages and knockbacks enemies as it's crashing through them, and it also increases the damage done by bone spikes in general. Then this is one of the more important ones, and one of the fun parts about this build is free on pig post, and this one here is for Dark Curse. It's going to actually pull in the enemies towards you while you're using Dark Curse, and this cannot occur more than once every 6 seconds to the same enemy, and it does reduce the cooldown of Dark Curse as well. So this one is super fun for a Dark Curse build. If you're pulling in the enemies towards you and you've got AoE going around you, that enemy just doesn't stand a chance. And then to top it off on here, we're using the shoulders with the Lingering Mantle, another older piece of gear, and this one here is for the duration of Dark Curse to increase it by 39%, so we can always keep Dark Curse up, to always be utilizing the main part of this build, which is to draw the enemies into us. Now, for the legs, we're using Fulsome Feeding, which is what we used to use back in the day. Grave Digger's Curse is going to create a curse that surrounds you, follows you, and it damages nearby enemies, continually generating corpses, and it also increases the damage of Dark Curse. Now, this is a great thing to have around you, other than any other kind of Dark Curse ability that we can use, because this aura around you is going to just pull in the enemies with this chest piece. This chest piece is amazing when it's using Dark Curse. Now, the other things we're using is Defiling Swarm. We use this in most of our builds to get Grim Scythe Swirling Blades. Now, I know they have been reduced in size, and the kind of the dead area around our character has been increased, but these are still very, very good. Don't skip out on these. These are still amazing when it comes to generating corpses and doing damage. Then for the last piece of gear, this is really kind of the 6 pieces that are important. We're going to be using Vortex of Bones, Departed Appetite. You're going to create a Vortex of Bones around you from absorbing consuming the corpses that are being left by the Grim Scythe and by Dark Curse. So the 2 dead slots that I'm using, I'm just put a Blightmore in there, and I've put a Spitefetter in there because it doesn't matter. These are just complete kind of stat sticks, so to speak. The actual skills on them do not matter. When it comes to set items, we're going for standard 2-piece Vifus. This time we're going to go for 4-piece Banquets because we're not clearing dots on this one, so getting any increase in crit hit chance, even if it is just once, is always a bonus when it comes to this build. Then we're using 1-piece Grace, all continual damage, channel damage, and persistent ground damage. Now, Dark Curse is considered persistent ground damage, so you've got an increase in damage there as well. So when it comes to gems that we're using, there's plenty of different gems you can use for this. Now, you can use dot gems, damage increase in gems, because dot gems will increase the percentage you get from our 4-piece banquets, but damage gems are probably the best ones to go for because it's all about stacking high amounts of damage in this build, especially when it comes to crit hit chance. The more crits we're doing, the better off the build is going to feel, and you'll see as the gems that I've chosen for me to use for this build. I will explain why. So we'll start off with the first gem here. I'm using the new Spectre Glass. Why am I using this? I'm using it for critical hits because I've got a lot of crit hit chance, and this will also increase my crit hit chance. I will trigger this all of the time, so all my critical hits will shatter the enemy's armor for 2 seconds, increasing the damage they take by 24%. It's only from you, but it increases the critical hit chance against them by 4%. So every enemy pretty much dies in one shot with this build when I'm using it, which basically means I take their armor away, I one-shot them. I also get that 4% increase to crit hit chance against them because I've had a critical hit chance against them. So as you can see, this is just a complete damage increasing gem, and I'd be foolish not to take it. Now, when it comes to damage increasing gems, you definitely want to be taking Berserker's Eye, one of the #1 damage gems in the game when it comes to just pure raw damage. When it comes to free-to-play low spenders, increases your damage by 16% and gives you 2% crit hit chance. Absolutely great. Now, when it comes to the next gem I'm using, I've got a Roiling Consequences in here. I've probably just gone past it. This one sends you into a roiling rage when you damage enemies. During this, it increases your crit hit chance by 30%. And it also causes your criticals also cause fiery explosions that burns nearby enemies, which actually activates your banquets to give you an extra 2.5% crit hit chance. Now, this is a great gem to use even at a lower rank. I've only got it as a rank 6, but one of the better gems in the game. Again, next gem, Mother's Lament. When you deal damage, you have a 20% chance to gain a buff, increasing your critical hit chance by 32% for 6 seconds. This 6 seconds here can be increased by using beneficial effects to make it last longer. So again, just going to be increasing my critical hit chance to gain more and more and more. I think with this build, my setup, I can get 99% crit hit chance on 1% off the cap of crit hit chance. It's absolutely insane. Next gem, Blood-Soaked Jade. Increase in damage again, additional movement speed 10%. The best way we can get just a flat increase in movement speed 10%, as well as using our agility stance for the increase in movement speed, which we'll go to in a minute. Next gem, I'm using level 1 Void Spark just in my Echoing Shade here. This is great for spreading dots and just spreading damage. Damage is just insane from this when it comes to spreading a spark around, and it looks absolutely awesome. I am then using a Bottled Hope, and you've guessed it, increase in damage, increase in movement speed. You know, this buff on here for movement speed is not really why I'm using it. It is definitely for the increase in damage. It grants you a buff. Cannot occur more than once every 20 seconds, but I do get a skill cooldown as well, which is decreased by 3% on my skills damage. I'm then using the new Colossus Engine, which increases your size, but it increases your skill damage. Size on the Rhino does not increase. You cannot increase the size of your Rhino, and I don't know why that's a thing, but I'm hoping it's a bug and that it gets fixed in the future, because if we had a size increase, then that would just make us move faster on the Rhino, and it would be absolutely amazing. But this is just for skill damage increase, which all of our skills are skill based, and it's going to do an immense amount of damage. Now, you can go in and use things like I mentioned before. You can go in and use a Pain Clasp. You can go in there and use a Fervent Fang. You could even go in there and use an Abiding Curse, because that would increase the damage you're dealing from Banquets of Eyes. There is many. Viper's Bite, Igneous Scorn, Feel Free to Experiment. You've got numerous different gems you can use at any different level in the game when it comes to how much you spend. Free to play, low spender, even whale level. Now, Paragon wise, this is not the usual Paragon we would use for a farming build, but farming builds would normally rely on Brawler. But because Rhino does not increase in size from Brawler size increase, we're just going to be using Vanquisher. Good old Vanquisher. When it comes to increase in damage, you don't want to go for anything here when it comes to collecting more gold, more orbs, more anything like that. This is the important setup. Defeating a monster or 5 monsters will guarantee you another critical hit. Great to have. You're going to be defeating monsters left, right, and center. You're always going to have extra criticals. Then a 5% increase in damage done to monsters. All of these are going to be monsters. You're going to gain an increase in 5% damage, just flat damage overall. Amazing. Then we're going to be using Wrath. For each monster you defeat, you again increase your damage by 0.5 seconds for 6 seconds, for 0.5% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. Another increase in damage. Don't forget to take it. Then we're using Zeal. This increases your attack speed by 0.5% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. Now, this also affects the cast time and the cast speed on your animations when it comes to using things like Corpse Lance and Grim Scythe. Then the Heart of the Wrath here increases the amounts of stacks for Wrath and Zeal to 15 instead of 10. For the Legendary, we would normally go with Death Release. I'm taking Lightning Rod just because why not? Now, Warband Room is another important one because we can't use the increase in size. When it comes to Warband Room, don't take Protector, take Attacker. Hopefully you've got all the remnants you need when it comes to increasing your damage, especially when it comes to your criticals. So in here you'll see, yeah, I've got a flat damage increase, but I've got a crit hit chance increased by 1%. And here I've also got an increase in critical hit chance by 3% while I'm above 70% health. So it's just more critical hit chance, more damage, more power, win-win. You know, there's no disadvantage to this. Familiars, we run down familiars all the time when it comes to our builds. Familiars, PvE, make sure you're using one with lingering wounds to increase the damage you deal. Curse properties as well, I tend to run through this because people ask for it. Wired 6-piece is great for most PvE content because after you kill an enemy, you release a surge of lightning that jumps 6 times between nearby enemies and deals 60% of your damage to them. And additionally, this being the important part, additionally, damage dealt to the enemy hit by the surge is increased by 18%. So any enemy that's hit by the surge, when you then do extra damage to them, that's increased by 18%. And as I've mentioned in this build, increasing in damage is all we need to do. On this, the other part doesn't really matter, but I stick with my lashed 2-piece. Now, other things that's important. As I mentioned, I will briefly go over this. Crit hit chance, the important stat. You want to be getting as much of that as you possibly can on any piece of gear, especially your legendaries. Movement speed, you want to have 20% base. Now that will easily come from using a Blood-Soaked Jade and then your agility stance to give you the 20% base. Now, when you use our helm, which is for bone spikes, to go into Rhino, that will actually increase our movement speed to 50%. Now to get to 60%, all you need is to use one of these. Corpse Lance increased by movement speed by 10% for 3 seconds. Corpse Lance is going to be up 100% of the time because of the amount of corpses we're going to be producing. So you're going to be hitting the cap for this build of 60% very, very easily. So make note of that. Kind of keep this video in the background if you want to kind of, you know, see how it's done. But that is how it is done when it comes to getting to 60% movement speed. And that is very important because if not, you're going to feel very slow. Now that is only 10% off the cap, and a call to Blizzard is increase the movement speed of Rhino for us, please, to 40% so we can actually hit the 70% cap, what we do in other builds. And this would make this build much more accessible for everyone when it comes to enjoying the game more. I think this is a blast at 60%, but 70% would make it perfect. Now, the only other thing I will say about the Rhino builds, now we've made 2 builds for this, is Rhino gets rid of our primary. As you can see down here, it is grayed out. Now, another call to action I would get Blizzard to change on this is when it comes to the Crusader on their mount, they can actually use a primary. Just allow us to have an AoE aura around our Rhino, which has a poison effect to it that deals damage, which actually then replaces the damage from our primary attack. That would be great. Obviously, we still get damage from being in Rhino because of the actual ability, which we wouldn't want to lose damage from anyway, but you've just completely gimped us when it comes to our primary, so give us some sort of extra damage when it comes to that. An aura around the Rhino that does AoE damage would be great. That's up all of the time while we're on Rhino. Small change, big wins. Now, the next question you're going to be asking is, how does the build work? So I'm just going to go in, I'm going to show you and start off a Terror Rift here. We won't do the full thing. I'll give you a rundown of kind of how it works. You'll see how the build works here and how much fun it really is. I'm not going to go in as a group. I don't think that really matters. But the one thing I will show you here is how Dark Curse works. So here, when I put it up, you'll see it pulls enemies towards me. So as I'm in Dark Curse and I'm on this mount, they're all just going to be heading towards me, and I'm just going to be able to nuke them down really, really quickly. So let's get into this. You'll see how it works, and then we'll give you the rundown on here, and then we will leave it there for the video until the next one. So here we go. Get everything up, bringing the enemies towards you, all of the criticals. You can see it's absolutely crazy when it comes to crit damage. Going in, hitting these elites here. They're down. Nice and simple. Plenty of damage. You can see the aura is absolutely huge when it comes to Dark Curse, and it is up 100% of the time. It drags enemies towards us, and it just works. It's great for this sort of content. Anything when it comes to easy PvE content, whether it comes to terrors, whether it comes to bounties, whether it comes to, you know, running towers, you know, anything that you would do with any sort of farming build. You could even run Elder Rifts, Greater Rifts at a lower level if you're just doing it to complete a task. You know, there's multiple different things you can use this build for, and I've used it for pretty much everything. Now, don't get me wrong. As I mentioned, I'll show you the 60% movement speed that I'm at. So here we go. Should say 60%. There we go. That is cap for this build. I will be bringing out a new farming build, which will be the build to follow this video, which will be a build that is pure 70%, absolutely kind of destroying everything, and you guys will love it. It's a replacement to one of my first videos that I haven't replaced in months, and it's actually my top viewed video, but I think it is time to actually do an update to it, and hopefully the changes that I've made to the build since then you will enjoy. But as you've seen how this works now, I think we can leave it there. This is great fun. Do try it out. Tell me what you think in the comments. I will take anyone's opinion on what to change with the build if you've got any ideas on how to make it better. But Blizzard, if you're out watching, heed my warnings when it comes to the changes, please. Please give them to us. You've made a great addition to the Necromancer, but you have just gimped it a small amount when it comes to movement speed and losing the primary. So on that note, guys, we'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.